Hi everyone. Dear students, today let us study about sensory perception and processing. So let us take up this last part of the neural coordination topic. What is meant by sensory perception and processing? Let us take up. We, the human beings, as well as if you see all other animals, we have ability to feel the surroundings. We sense our surroundings, whether it is hot, whether it is cold, it is raining. We feel the touch, pressure, pain. We are able to see the things around us, and we are able to hear and respond to the hearings and to the stimuli what we are getting. So the changes in the surrounding, whatever happening, these are called as the stimuli. And to these stimuli our body respond. So for that purpose we have got a perfect sensory system which contains the receptors, sense organs which are connected to the central nervous system. Now let us take up how the sensory perception and processing takes place. First, stimulus, that is the change in our surroundings, external or internal environment, which is showing some change. Like for example, if I want to give you some stimuli, stimulus of the heat, cold, pain, smell, or vision or light. So all these are called as stimuli. That stimulus will be received by sensory receptors. These sensory receptors, which are present inside the sense organs, these sensory receptors will send the sensory signals through sensory nerves, and that sensory nerve carries these sensory signals to the central nervous system. Now in the central nervous system, these electrical signals will be processed. Processing and analysis of the signals takes place in the central nervous system, and then these signals are forwarded to sensory centers in our brain. And these sensory centers in our brain, mainly the cortex of the brain, these centers will be actually responsible for recognition of type of stimulus. What type of stimulus it is, our sensory centers in the brain will recognize, and then we have a response to it. Okay, that is how the sensory perception and processing is taking place. For example, we are walking on a road and we see that one of our friend, for example, I am going on a road and I see that one of my best friend is coming at a little distance. I can see him. So that vision of that person is a stimulus, and that stimulus is carried by the sensory receptors which receive it and then send it through the sensory nerves, and those sensory signals of the picture of that person will be reaching the central nervous system, and it will match with the already preserved, stored memory in our brain, and our brain recognizes that it is one of the best friend of mine. Then that is the recognition of the type of stimulus and identifying who the person is, and then I will have a response. Either I will shout by calling him with his name, or I will wave my hands. So that is my response. So this is how the sensory perception and processing is taking place. Now let us take up what are the types of receptors. Receptors are the sensory cells which are usually made up of the epithelial cells which are present in the linings of the sense organs. And these receptors, if we classify them, there are different types. at least 5 different types of receptors are there. Thermoreceptors, which are responsible for detecting or perceiving the heat and cold. Heat and cold receptors. Then photoreceptors for vision, seeing the things around us. Chemoreceptors detect the chemical nature of food, air, or liquid, or blood. Its chemical nature is detected. Nociceptors are the internal receptors which are responsible for the reception of or the feeling of the pain. They are pain receptors found in the muscles, in the skin, in the joints and the tendons and all. So inside the body, in other tissues also. Nociceptors, which are responsible for pain, receiving the pain stimulus. Then mechanoreceptors, or we can say mechanical reception they do. And these mechanoreceptors can be of the touch and pressure. Similarly, chemoreceptors can be of olfactory or gustatory. Now let us take up each of these types of receptors. In thermoreceptors, heat receptors and cold receptors are there, and these are located at the fingertips and in the skin just below the epidermis. And we know that the cold receptors are called as crosses end bulbs. So these are the cold receptors. Cold receptors. Crosses end bulbs. And heat receptors are Raffinis endings. These are the nerve endings. So they receive heat and cold. Then photoreceptors, if you take up, photoreceptors are found in the retina of eye, and these photoreceptors are the important receptors for visual perception. Visual perception means the things we see around us. That's what the sense of seeing. Just imagine how pathetic is the condition of a person who is blind. He can't see anything around him. So these are very important receptors, photoreceptors. So retina contains two types of cells, rods and cones. They are responsible for the photoreception or vision. Rods usually are useful in dim light and only black and white or grey shades we can detect by using rods. So usually night vision we call. There the rods help us. And cones, therefore the color vision. Color vision, and it needs bright light. So color vision in bright light is through the cones. So these are photoreceptors. Next, chemoreceptors. There are two types. Olfactory, which are the receptors found in the nose. Olfaction means sense of smelling. Sense of smelling. So in our nasal chamber, the sensory epithelium, which is covered by mucus, has got the olfactory receptors, and these receptors are able to detect the chemical nature and therefore chemical nature of air. Therefore we are able to smell the things. And then gustatory are the taste receptors. Food we are able to taste with the help of gustatory receptors, which are located in the tongue on the surface of the tongue in the papillae, tongue papillae we call, they contain the taste buds, and those taste buds have the gustatory receptors. So whatever chemical nature of the food is, that is detected by these receptors. Actually, we enjoy the food by these two receptors. Smelling and taste together makes the sense of what the food we eat and we enjoy it. So that is about the chemoreceptors. The olfactory receptors detect the chemical nature of the air, whereas gustatory receptors detect the chemical nature of the food or any liquid which we are taking in. Okay, now nociceptors. Nociceptors are the pain receptors. Nociceptors are mainly the internal receptors which are located in the muscles, in the different tissues, tendons and joints, and any damaging or any kind of changes in the structure of the internal organs, tear, burning or damage to the structures that create the pain, so that pain is sensed by the nociceptors, and nociceptors are also there in the skin. Then mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors are of two types, touch and pressure receptors. Now further, the touch receptors are like Meissner's organ or capsule, and the pressure receptors may be Pacinian corpuscle, Then let us know first about the touch receptor, which are tactile in function. Tactile means sensory to the touch, and these are present in the skin. These nerve endings surrounded by some encapsulation. So these Meissner's receptors, they help us in detecting the touch, sense of touch. Then pressure receptors, which can detect the pressure as well as the vibrations in our surroundings. Okay. Pacinian receptors are located in the part of the skin which is hairless, like on the fingertips, on the sole of the palm and sole of the feet, etc. So they are the pressure receptors. Now let us take up the sense organs. We have 5 different sense organs. Skin is bringing about the perception of so many stimuli, and the receptors it has got are for detecting the temperature, heat and cold, and then touch, then pressure and pain. So these receptors for all these kind of stimuli are present in the skin. And then even itching, when the free sensory endings in our skin come in contact with some irritating chemical, the itching sense is created. Then eyes for vision, and nose for olfaction, sense of olfaction or smelling, tongue for the taste or gustatory reception, then ears are for receiving the sound waves, detection of the sound waves, perception of the sound waves, I should say, perception of the sound waves. So they are also known as phonoreceptors or auditory reception, auditory in function. So we are able to listen with the help of the phonoreceptors in the ear. So these are the 5 sense organs. For your study, eye and ear has been included in NCERT syllabus. So we will take up now these 2 sense organs in detail. So first we will start with the eyes.